I was 24 years old when Christmas stopped feeling like Christmas. Up until that year, I still held on to the fragile belief that my parents loved me the same way they loved my sister, Amanda. Sure, the signs of favoritism had always been there. Her bigger bedroom, her endless praise, the way my mom introduced her at church like she was some kind of celebrity while I stood in the background. But Christmas had always been different, at least in my heart. I thought gifts were supposed to mean thoughtfulness, effort, love. I thought maybe, just maybe, the day would remind my parents that I mattered too. I was wrong. That morning, I woke to the familiar smell of cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. My mom always baked them on Christmas morning, her one family tradition. She never skipped. I could hear her humming in the kitchen and my dad shuffling around the tree, placing gifts. For a moment, I let myself feel a flicker of excitement. I told myself, this year might be different. This year they'll see me. When Amanda finally emerged from her room, her long blonde hair perfect even in the morning, she gave me the same smirk she'd been giving me since we were teenagers. She didn't have to say it. I knew what she was thinking. She was the star of the show, and I was just an audience member in my own house. We gathered in the living room, the tree glowing with soft white lights, presents piled high underneath. My mom passed around mugs of cocoa, her eyes sparkling when Amanda took hers. She barely looked at me. Dad cleared his throat. All right, he said. Let's start with Amanda. Of course. Always Amanda. My sister picked up a giant box, the kind you'd expect to hold something extravagant. She tore through the wrapping paper while I sat cross-legged on the carpet, waiting for my turn. When she opened the box, her gasp filled the room. She pulled out a Gucci bag, gleaming under the lights, the signature double G hardware practically screaming luxury. $4,300, she whispered, like she couldn't believe it herself. Oh my God. Mom, Dad, I love you. She jumped up, hugging them, squealing like a little girl even though she was 26. I clapped weakly, forcing a smile, my stomach twisting. A Gucci bag. My parents had never spent that much on me in my entire life combined. Mom's face glowed with pride. Only the best for our Amanda, she said, her voice syrupy sweet. Dad chuckled. You deserve it, sweetheart. You've always made us proud. And then, like an afterthought, Mom turned to me. Rachel, here you go. She handed me a small envelope. I tried to swallow the lump in my throat as I slid a finger under the flap. Inside was a card, just a plain, $2 greeting card with glitter that was already peeling off. Wishing you a Merry Christmas. Love, Mom and Dad. No money. No gift card. Nothing but a half-hearted signature. I stared at it, my vision blurring as Amanda twirled around the living room, swinging her Gucci bag like a trophy. My mom was laughing. My dad was snapping photos, and I was just invisible. The heat rushed to my face. My chest burned. For years I had told myself I was imagining it, that I was paranoid, oversensitive, jealous. But in that moment, I couldn't deny it anymore. They didn't see me. They never had. I whispered, thank you, but my voice cracked. Amanda laughed. What did you get, Ratch? A sentimental keepsake. She said it like a joke, but the cruelty was obvious. Something inside me shattered. It wasn't about the bag. Not really. It was about what it symbolized. Amanda was worth $4,300. I was worth $2. That's how my parents saw us. That's how they always had. I excused myself to the bathroom, clutching the stupid card so tightly that the edges bent. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, mascara smudging under my eyes. Why am I never enough? I whispered. The girl in the mirror had no answer. By the time I came back out, Amanda was already taking selfies with her bag, posting them on Instagram with captions like blessed to have the best parents ever. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the card at their feet and tell them exactly how much it hurt. But instead, I sat back down on the carpet, silent, holding my worthless little card like it might still mean something. And in that silence, something changed inside me. It was the breaking point. The exact moment I realized that waiting for my parents' love was like waiting for snow in July. It was never coming. Christmas was supposed to be about family, about joy, about love. But for me, that day marked the death of an illusion. My family had drawn the line in permanent ink. Amanda was their golden child, and I was nothing more than the shadow standing next to her shine. Still, shadows don't stay shadows forever. Sometimes, when the lights shift, they grow darker, deeper, impossible to ignore. That Christmas broke me, but it also woke me up. And from that day forward, I promised myself one thing: I would never let them decide my worth again. The Christmas of the Gucci bag and the $2 card haunted me long after the tree was taken down and the lights were boxed up in the attic. For most people, Christmas memories are wrapped in warmth, family dinners, laughter, traditions passed down like heirlooms. For me, that year became a scar, a reminder carved into my heart that I was not enough, not in their eyes, maybe not in anyone's. But what hurt the most wasn't that single day. It was the years that followed, the way the favoritism seeped into every corner of my life like water through cracks. Silent pain, the kind that eats away at you slowly, doesn't make headlines. It doesn't explode. It festers. I tried to pretend it didn't matter. I told myself I was an adult now, that I could build a life outside of my family's approval. But every time I stepped into that house, every time Amanda was praised for something as small as showing up, I felt myself shrinking. At birthdays, she got jewelry and weekend trips. I got a book I'd never asked for, sometimes nothing at all. At family dinners, she was seated at the head of the table, while I was squeezed at the end, almost out of the frame in the pictures Dad insisted on taking. It was in the words they used to. "Amanda's our shining star," Mom would say, her voice carrying just enough volume so I'd hear it. "She's always been special." And then, in the same breath, she'd glance at me and add, "Rachel's, the steady one. She doesn't need much." Doesn't need much. That became my label. I didn't need attention, didn't need love, didn't need recognition. In their eyes, my silence was strength. But in reality, it was survival. I learned to carry my heart quietly, to plaster on a smile at holidays, to clap for Amanda's endless accomplishments. When she got a promotion, there was champagne and a family toast. When I got mine, my dad said, "That's good, honey," before changing the subject. It wasn't that I wanted what Amanda had. I didn't need luxury bags or constant applause. What I wanted was fairness. What I wanted was to be seen, to be acknowledged as someone who mattered too. The hardest part was watching Amanda thrive on the pedestal they built for her. She believed she deserved it. She believed she was better. And maybe, in some ways, she was, because she had their unwavering support, and I had scraps. Still, I kept my silence. Not because I was weak, but because I knew if I spoke, my words would bounce off deaf ears. They had already decided who I was, and nothing I said would change their narrative. So, I swallowed my feelings. But silence doesn't erase pain. It deepens it. It turns into long nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why you weren't born enough. It turns into quiet tears shed in your car after family gatherings. It turns into the ache of watching your parents' love being poured into someone else's cup while yours remains empty. There were moments, though, when the anger slipped through the cracks. Like the time Amanda bragged about her Gucci bag again, months after Christmas, twirling it on her arm while I stood by the sink doing dishes. "You wouldn't understand," she said, laughing. "You've never owned anything this nice." I wanted to scream at her. "I don't care about your bag. I care that they gave it to you and gave me nothing." But the words died in my throat, swallowed down like they always were. Or the time Dad showed a coworker a picture of his girls. It was Amanda front and center, smiling with perfect hair and perfect teeth. I was in the background, half cut out of the frame. The man chuckled and said, "Oh, she looks just like you." He was talking about Amanda. I wanted to disappear. Silent pain has a way of convincing you it's your fault. That maybe you weren't lovable enough, smart enough, special enough. And for years, I carried that belief like a weight chained around my ankles. But slowly, very slowly, I began to notice something else. The cracks in Amanda's perfect life. The way she leaned so heavily on my parents for validation, as if without their praise she would collapse. The way she snapped at me when I did succeed, as though my small victories were a threat to her crown. And I realized, maybe I wasn't the weak one. Maybe she was. Maybe my silence wasn't just survival, it was strength. Because I could stand on my own 2 feet, even without the spotlight, even without the Gucci bags, even without the constant applause. The years of silent pain carved resilience into me. They taught me to endure, to listen more than I spoke, to see people clearly, not just the masks they wore. But they also taught me something else. Silence has a limit. You can only bottle up so much hurt before it starts to overflow. And deep down, I knew a reckoning was coming. Christmas had broken me, but the years that followed built a quiet storm inside me. And storms don't stay silent forever. It was supposed to be just another Sunday dinner. The kind of evening my parents insisted on hosting every other week, where Amanda would arrive like royalty, dressed in something new and expensive, while I slipped in quietly, unnoticed, like furniture no one dusted anymore. But that night was different. I didn't know it when I walked in. I didn't know that the years of silent pain, the swallowed words, the shrinking of myself, I didn't know it would all unravel in a single moment. The table was set, candles flickering in the center, and Mom's roast chicken filled the room with its familiar smell. Dad poured wine into glasses, his smile already wide as Amanda leaned in to tell some dramatic story. And of course, my boss said I was the only one he trusted with the project, Amanda said, flicking her hair back. It's like, sometimes I feel bad, you know? Getting all the opportunities. I sat across from her, cutting my chicken into small pieces, pretending to care. The usual ache pulsed inside me, but I kept my face neutral. Then Dad chuckled, shaking his head. Amanda, you've always been destined for more. From the time you were little, we knew. You're the star of this family. And then, he turned to me. His words were casual, almost dismissive. And Rachel, well, you've always been steady, reliable, the quiet one. Every family needs one of those two. The quiet one. Something in me cracked. I don't know if it was the smug tilt of Amanda's smile, or Mom nodding in agreement, or maybe just the years of being invisible piling up until my shoulders couldn't carry it anymore. My fork clattered against the plate. Do you hear yourselves? The room went still. Amanda's smile faltered. Mom's hand froze on her wine glass. Excuse me. Dad said. I said, do you hear yourselves? Do you even realize what you sound like? Every single dinner, every holiday, every conversation, it's Amanda this, Amanda that. Amanda's the star. Amanda's the special one. And me? I'm just steady, quiet, invisible. The words came out like fire, shaking, but unstoppable. My chest felt like it was splitting open. Mom frowned. Rachel, no one's saying you're invisible. Yes, you are. My voice cracked. You've been saying it my whole life. Maybe not with those exact words, but with everything you do. Do you remember Christmas? You gave her a $4,300 Gucci bag. You gave me a $2 card. Do you know what that felt like? Sitting there, smiling while you basically told me I wasn't worth more than spare change. Amanda rolled her eyes. Rachel, you're being dramatic. It was just a gift. Just a gift. I laughed bitterly. It was never just a gift. It's every single choice you all make. Every single reminder that I don't matter as much. That I never will. The silence was suffocating, but I couldn't stop. Years of pain were boiling over. Dad's face hardened. Rachel, don't raise your voice at this table. You're 30 years old. This isn't how adults behave. Oh, but it's how parents behave. I shot back, favoring one child so openly that the other feels like they are screaming into a void. Do you have any idea what that does to a person? To watch their sibling praised, spoiled, adored, while they get scraps of affection, if that. Amanda shifted uncomfortably. This is ridiculous. You're jealous, Rachel. Admit it. You've always been jealous. Jealous. My hands trembled, but my voice rose stronger. I'm not jealous of you, Amanda. I'm furious at them. At what they created. At the way they put you on a pedestal and left me standing in the shadows. You think I want their Gucci bags and empty compliments. I wanted fairness. I wanted love. I wanted to feel like their daughter too. Mom's eyes welled with tears, but I didn't soften. Not this time. Dad's jaw tightened. You've misunderstood. We've always loved you equally. I shook my head. No. You loved her loudly, and you loved me quietly. And quiet love doesn't feel like love at all. It feels like absence. The room was trembling, though maybe it was just me. My hands, my voice, my whole body shaking with years of suppressed rage finally spilling into the air. For once, Amanda didn't have a comeback. She stayed at me, her perfect lips pressed into a line, her eyes darting to Mom and Dad as if waiting for them to defend her. But they didn't. They sat there in stunned silence, maybe realizing, for the first time, what they had done. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of wood against tile slicing through the quiet. I can't keep doing this, I said. My voice broke then, softer but sharper somehow. I can't keep coming here, smiling, pretending it doesn't hurt. Because it does. It always has. And I'm done pretending. The candles flickered. The roast chicken sat untouched. My parents stared at me as if I'd suddenly become a stranger in their home. Maybe I had. I picked up my coat, slung it over my shoulder, and walked toward the door. My legs felt weak, but each step carried a strange new strength. Rachel, Mom whispered, her voice fragile. Where are you going? I paused at the doorway. Somewhere I don't feel invisible. And then I left. The night air hit me like a wave, cold and sharp, but freeing. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel with trembling hands, tears streaming down my face. For years, I had swallowed my pain. For years, I had been the quiet one, but not anymore. That night was the breaking point. The moment silence turned into fire. The moment I chose to stop begging for scraps of love and start demanding more, for myself, if not from them. Because sometimes, breaking isn't the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning. The week after that dinner, everything inside me shifted. For years, I had been the quiet one, the one who swallowed pain in silence, who smiled politely at jokes that stung like knives, who accepted her role as the shadow while her sister lived in the spotlight. But once words leave your mouth, once truth escapes into the air, it can't be shoved back inside. That night had cracked something wide open. And now, the cracks were becoming fire. The text started first. Mom, Rachel, we need to talk. You overreacted. Dad, you embarrassed us at dinner. Amanda was hurt. Amanda, drama queen. Grow up. Every message was another match dropped onto the pile of dry kindling in my chest. They wanted me quiet again, the way I'd always been. They wanted me back in the role they'd written for me, the invisible daughter, the reliable placeholder, the audience to Amanda's endless show. But the thing about fire is this, once it starts, it spreads. I didn't respond. Not to a single text. Instead, I made a decision. If they wanted to keep pretending nothing was wrong, I would confront them where they couldn't run, where they couldn't hide behind dismissive words or cheap excuses. Face to face. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Amanda's birthday. Every year, it was the same. A lavish dinner at an upscale restaurant, paid for by my parents, where Amanda would hold court like a queen while the rest of us clapped and cheered. This year, I showed up with no gift, no false smile, no intention of blending into the wallpaper. When I walked in, the restaurant glittered with warm lights. Amanda sat at the head of the long table, her blonde hair styled to perfection, a diamond necklace winking against her skin. My parents flanked her like loyal subjects, beaming as if the sun had chosen their table to shine upon. I slid into my seat at the far end. My heart was pounding, my palms slick with sweat, but my jaw was set. Amanda spotted me and smirked. Well, look who decided to show up. No outburst this time, Rachel? Or should we all brace ourselves? The table chuckled, polite laughter, uncomfortable, but still enough to sting. I met her gaze. For once, I didn't look away. No outburst. Just truth. She raised an eyebrow. Here we go. Dinner began. The usual compliments flowed. How beautiful Amanda looked. How impressive her new promotion was. How lucky she was to be so successful. And then Dad lifted his glass for a toast. To Amanda, he declared, his voice booming with pride. The shining light of our family. You make us proud every single day. Glasses clinked. Smiles gleamed. And I snapped. I stood up, chair scraping loudly against the floor. Every eye turned toward me. Do you even hear yourselves? I asked, my voice shaking, but strong. Stronger than it had ever been. Dad frowned. Rachel, not hey. Yes, hey. I cut him off. Because if I don't say it now, when will I ever? You've turned this family into Amanda's kingdom, and the rest of us are just background characters. Do you know what it's like to sit here year after year and be treated like I don't exist? To watch you pour every ounce of pride, every dollar, every ounce of love into her, while I get nothing but scraps. The table froze. Fox hovered mid-air. Amanda rolled her eyes. God, Rachel, you're obsessed with me. This is embarrassing. No, I said firmly, my voice steady now. What's embarrassing is parents who think favoritism isn't poison. What's embarrassing is raising two daughters but making only one feel like she matters. Mom's cheeks flushed. Rachel, that's not fair. Not fair. My laugh was sharp, bitter. You gave her a Gucci bag worth thousands. You gave me a $2 card. You call that fair? You've been sending me that message my whole life. That I'm less. That she's more. And I've believed it for too long. Amanda scoffed. So what? You want their money? Their gifts? Is that what this is about? I stared at her, my chest heaving. No, Amanda. I don't want your gifts. I want respect. I want love. I want to stop being treated like a footnote in my own family story. The silence was heavy. Diners at other tables glanced our way. My dad's face was red, his jaw clenched tight. Rachel, sit down. You're ruining the evening. I shook my head. No, I'm saving myself. Because I can't sit quietly anymore while you erase me with every choice you make. I deserve more than this. I deserve to exist. Amanda snorted. This is pathetic. But her voice wavered. For once, her mask cracked. She wasn't used to me standing tall, looking her dead in the eye, refusing to shrink. And I realized something. She wasn't as strong as she pretended to be. She thrived on their favoritism because without it, she was just ordinary. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp enough to cut. You may be their star, Amanda, but stars burn out. And when they do, the world remembers the ones who endured the dark. Her smirk faltered. I grabbed my coat, just like I had at that dinner weeks earlier. Only this time, I wasn't walking away in tears. This time, I was walking away in power. As I turned, Mom whispered, Rachel, please don't do this. You'll regret it. I paused, looking at her one last time. No, Mom. The only regret I have is waiting 30 years to finally speak. And then I left. Outside, the city lights glimmered. My chest still heaved, but there was no weight pressing down this time. For the first time in my life, I had stood in the fire and refused to be burned. This was no longer about them. It was about me. About reclaiming the voice they had stolen. About stepping out of the shadows I had been shoved into. The confrontation had ended one chapter, and it had begun another. The night of Amanda's birthday confrontation left me trembling, not with fear, but with release. For the first time in 30 years, my words hadn't been swallowed, my truth hadn't been silenced. But healing doesn't arrive overnight. It lingers, like an echo you have to follow through the holes of your own history. For me, that echo led back to one place, the house I grew up in. It had been years since I'd stood on that cracked driveway. The two-story suburban house with its peeling white shutters and sagging porch swings still carried the same shape, but it felt smaller now, like a stage set built to contain memories too heavy for its walls. I parked my car and just sat there for a moment, watching the curtains sway in the window. Somewhere inside, I had laughed as a little girl. Somewhere inside, I had cried myself to sleep when Amanda's laughter earned applause while my silence earned nothing. Every corner held a ghost. But ghosts only have power if you keep running from them. So I opened the car door and walked inside. The house smelled faintly of lemon polish and old carpets. Mom's voice floated from the kitchen, sharp and irritated. "Rachel, what are you doing here? We didn't expect." Dad appeared next, arms crossed, eyes heavy with disapproval. Amanda wasn't there, thank God, but her absence was like a shadow anyway. I stood in the doorway, hands steady at my sides. "I came to say goodbye." Mom blinked. "Goodbye? Rachel, don't be dramatic. Families fight. We'll get past this." Her words nearly made me laugh. Past this? As if 3 decades of favoritism could be swept away like crumbs after dinner. "No," I said softly but firmly. "This isn't a fight. This is a pattern. And I won't keep playing my part in it." We stood in the living room, the same living room where family photos lined the walls, every one of them a testament to imbalance. Amanda in her prom dress, Amanda at her graduation, Amanda holding trophies, Amanda in glossy frames that seemed to multiply year after year. And me? Always in the background, always cropped at the edge. I walked up to one of the frames, a picture of Amanda at 16, smiling wide, bouquet of flowers in her hands. I remembered that day. I'd been there too, holding a certificate from a school writing contest. Dad had barely glanced at it. Mom had told me not to make a fuss because Amanda's moment was bigger. I touched the frame and let the memory sting one last time. Then I turned back to them. "I don't hate you," I said, my voice calm. "That's the truth. I don't even hate Amanda. What I hate is the way you made me believe I was less. And what I hate even more is how long I let that belief define me." Dad frowned. "Rachel." "No," I cut him off gently. "You don't get to rewrite this. You don't get to dismiss me as dramatic or jealous anymore. I know my worth now. I know who I am." Silence. It stretched, uncomfortable and heavy, like an old sweater that didn't fit anymore. Finally, Mom whispered, "So what now? You're just leaving us?" I nodded. "Yes, for my own peace. I'll always be your daughter, but I won't be your scapegoat. I won't sit quietly in the shadow of the golden child you created. I have my own life, my own house, my own story to stand in." Her eyes glistened. For the first time, I saw something that looked like regret flicker across her face. But regret whispered too late is still too late. As I walked toward the door, Dad's voice followed me. Low, tight, almost pleading. "You'll regret this someday." I paused, hand on the doorknob. The same line Mom had used at Amanda's birthday. The same script, played over and over, like they only knew one way to control me. Fear of regret. I turned back. "No," I said, my voice steady as stone. "The only regret I'll have is if I let you keep convincing me I wasn't enough. This house can keep its ghosts. I'm building something stronger." And with that, I stepped outside. The air hit me cold, sharp, alive. I drew in a deep breath and realized my shoulders weren't hunched anymore. I wasn't carrying their judgment like chains. Behind me, the house loomed, still standing, still full of all its history. But it no longer owned me. It was just wood and brick and paint. Nothing more. The real house, the one that mattered, was the one I was building inside myself. A foundation of truth, walls of self-worth, a roof strong enough to weather storms. That house would stand. Months later, on a quiet evening, I sat in my own apartment, plants on the windowsill, books stacked on the coffee table, laughter from friends still echoing in the air after dinner. And I realized this was what family should feel like. Chosen, equal, real. Not a stage where one person shines and the rest serve as shadows. I picked up my phone and, for the first time, didn't check for a text from my parents or Amanda. I didn't need their words anymore. Not their praise, not their pity, not their poison. I had my own voice, my own life, my own house that stood. And it was enough.